Now. I'm going to make sure we are live streaming. We are good to go.
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Sherry, be sure and read the governor's statement.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do the roll call first. And put my glasses on. We don't have everyone here, though. Ann Dunn.
Here.
Carol Krieger. Ann Goat.
Present.
Ashley McAnulty. Kathy Greaves.
Here.
Jenny Moonshower. Inetta Gaines. Jody Rawl.
Present.
Linda Lynch.
Here.
Lois Hooker. Mary Hammond, I'm here. Tara Volpentesca.
I'm here.
And Allison Spears.
I'm here.
Thank you. Are you by phone?
Sherry, it looked like Inetta joined the meeting.
Okay. And Inetta, are you here?
Here.
Okay. Okay. All right. As you may know, Governor Bill Lee issued Executive Order 16 on March 16th and extended its provisions by Executive Order 36 on May 6th, Executive Order 51 on June 29th, Executive Order 60 on August 28th, and Executive Order 65 on October 28th. These orders were issued to ensure that government continues to function openly and transparently during the COVID-19 emergency, while taking appropriate measures to protect the health and safety of citizens and government officials. In his orders, Governor Lee emphasized that in the interest of limiting the community spread of COVID-19, private and governmental entities of all types should eliminate large public gatherings and conduct business remotely by electronic means to the greatest extent possible. The orders provide that governments may meet to conduct essential business by electronic means when the governing body determines that doing so is necessary to protect citizens. Sadly, COVID-19 continues to spread across the state and Williamson County. Therefore, the city has determined that in the interest of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans and the citizens of Brentwood, it is necessary for the Board of Commissioners to meet partially electronically rather than in person. We have posted the link for public viewing on the city's website and social media pages, and we have disseminated the same to the media. Is there any objection by the commission? I'll do the roll call. Ann Dunn.
No objection.
Carol Krieger.
No objection.
Ann Goad. Ashley McAnulty. Kathy Greaves.
No objection.
Jenny Moonshower. Inetta Gaines.
No objection.
Jody Rawl.
No objection.
Linda Lynch. Linda Lynch. I think we lost her. Lois Hooker.
No objection.
Sherry Hammond, no objections. Tara.
No objection.
Allison Spears.
No objection.
Okay, great. Okay, Allison, welcome to the Historic Commission. We're gonna look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I'm tickled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so first up is Leadership Brentwood, and they're going to talk about the root cellar improvement. And I know one's on. Is it one of the Joshes, I guess? I saw a picture.
Good morning. Good
morning.
morning, everybody. This is Josh Derryberry, and I think Josh Stewart, who's the other gentleman joining, he said he's dialed in. Josh, are you on as well?
I am. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, perfect. All right. Y'all are stuck with the Joshes this morning, but we appreciate y'all having us. And the other team members here, I mean, they either had professional conflicts or one actually had an unfortunate family matter that occurred. But everybody, we've been working closely together as a team, to get the proposal up to today. As Josh said, we're really appreciative just to be here. Thanks for everything that you do in the community. And we look forward to your feedback, your questions. I'm sure you'll have some, and we appreciate that. And so I told Josh, I tried about 3 times to get into the WebEx, and it kept locking my computer and rebooting. So unfortunately, I'm just here via phone, but as I understand it, y'all have a copy of the presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, correct, Josh. If you are able to log on to the city's YouTube channel, that would be able to help you at least see what you're looking at. But I do have your presentation, and I will just follow your lead and advance the slides for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, unfortunately, my laptop, I only have a corporate laptop, and it doesn't allow us to go to things like YouTube. But yeah, I'll just kind of give some basic direction as we go. So again, appreciate it. And today we're here to talk about the Root Cellar project, where we've got some ideas of how we can make improvements going forward. And essentially, Deanna, if you want to go to slide 2. The objective here we list is it's a restoration project, and this will allow visitors of the park to kind of get a look back in time into the need of a root cellar back in the 18th century. I'll be honest with everyone here, I really had no idea or prior knowledge prior to doing the visit out to the mansion and taking a look myself. So it was a learning experience for me, and I know many of the members of the team as well. And I really didn't know what they were used for, and why they had them, and so it was great. And so prior to refrigeration, these root cellars were actually a very important and integral component of agriculture that, just like me, many individuals know little or nothing about. It helped with food preservation and allowed the growth of farmsteads by providing a means of sustainability. So with today, we have new technologies, of course, but back then they didn't, and they used what was available. So this whole project will basically enhance the importance of the root cellar, and it will help its presentability as you have folks coming on site. And so if we want to move to slide 3, just a basic overview of what we decided and through consultation would be the scope of the project. And so for 4 items that we have, first and foremost, we have a site cleanup that's required, and I'll go into a little bit of that detail as we move forward. Water mitigation, which is really going to be very important, and that's where I'll kick it over to Josh to kind of continue the presentation, the staging and the presentation, and then looking forward to your feedback on an idea we have around the plaque, but we know it's important. And I will say with all of this, and Josh will highlight that too, what's critical is maintaining the authenticity of the period and making everything from that period. We don't want to change that. That's one of the things that I think brings people there. And so that's really important to us. And again, we want your feedback. If we want to move to slide 4, just around the site cleanup. So some of the things we went in, we got in there and had a nice detailed tour. There's some ivy that we actually need to remove, and that can also do some damage long-term structurally. And so with Deanna Lambert's advice and connection, she put us in touch with Lynn from Terra Firma at the Historic Homes. I'm sure most of you probably already know Lynn, and we would, of course, need to get the requisite approval. But and we have we don't have it in this project. I can detail it a little bit, but that is going to be something that requires some work. I believe the estimate was somewhere on the order of $1,700 to $2,500. Give or take. We do also have one of our team members who has his own professional landscaper, and so if that's something that y'all would approve of, or we could work with Lynn to put a presentation together, that could be something we could look at as well, just to minimize the cost. But either way, I don't think it would be a problem. There were some very deteriorated, just over time, vegetables on display there that we'd want to remove those. Again, retain and clean all of the historic items. We want everything to remain in the period. And then, and Josh can probably talk about this a little bit better than me even, but those Lexan windows that are there, which have not always been there, we would want to clean those as well, so that people walking by would have maximum visibility into the root cellar. And then depending on how we proceed with the rest of the project, that would be critical. And if we want to move to the next slide 5, I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Josh Stewart to continue us through the presentation. Josh?
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. I want to tell you a little bit about my background before I start. I'm actually an architect. I've been practicing for 20 years. I'm a partner at TM Partners in Brentwood. We're proudly the largest architecture firm in Brentwood, and we do quite a bit of work, not only in Brentwood and Williamson County, but throughout Middle Tennessee and throughout the Southeast. And our healthcare practice actually reaches out nationally too. So I kind of just wanted to say that to preface. I'm going to get into some design commentary, and it's not just a lawyer or an accountant telling you what I think. There's a little bit of I am a design professional, and obviously have some background and exposure with these topics, and just want to make that known to everyone that that we've got that resource on our team that's going into this. So we were on site, and one of the major issues that that we're having with the root cellar is water intrusion, and it appears to be that a lot of the source of the water it's coming down the open stairwell. So typically when a cellar is constructed, and I think folks have seen this before, just you go around and look at cellar access or basement access, there's some sort of protected covering on the access to the cellar, and the main reason for that is to keep water out. We did do some preliminary exploration of an alternative to leave this open, whether it be an area drain or some kind of water management system that would involve potentially a sump pump or something like that to push water out. But I think that is a more maintenance intensive solution that also isn't really guaranteed to work. So we started going away from that concept, and we started looking more at what could we do to put some doors, to propose putting some kind of covering over these stairs to help preserve this area better and manage the water. So we'll have additional commentary as we go through the presentation here, but we kind of started with what can we do. There is a product called Cleargrass, which is very similar to it would be kind of a similar look to the Lexan panels that are there. That is an option we could look at. Obviously, that's not period specific, but it would allow you to be able to see the stone and the wood door and just get a general feel. The other thing I wanted to say is the leaf and the debris that are collecting in this area. This also would help, obviously, where that isn't so much of an issue and you're not as worried about that. And then just inviting folks to get in there off hours and potentially harm themselves or do some damage to the property. We think there's also a security component to this that can come into play. So these are kind of some of the options we started with. And Josh, if you want to go to the next slide, or whoever's piano, thank you. Yeah, I was actually riding my bike over in Terramore one day. I live off Split Log Road, and I rode by the Sayers house, which is very, I think it's close to the same period of the Ravenswood mansion, similar aesthetic, similar time frame. And I noticed these cellar doors up against the house, and I said, wow, I mean, that might be an idea for the root cellar at the Ravenswood mansion. So that kind of got our, we were talking as a group as this could be something to draw inspiration from potentially for our design, and we'll talk about that later on. But should we move in the direction of a more period appropriate solution, this could be something to consider. And of course, we'd want your group's feedback on that as to whether you feel it's appropriate for that condition. We're just kind of throwing out ideas at this point. So moving on to the staging portion, we do want to really clean the areas we've talked about and make it look like it would have looked during the time. And that might include some additional barrels. I believe there's already some barrels in, some sand to show how they stored the vegetables and different products at that time. We would like to look at some shelving to be able to pull these items off the ground, and I think they'll present better, and it'll also be it'll help them last a little longer if they're a little more protected that way. So we're still we're coming up with ideas. We're doing product research on period appropriate items. Certainly with the commission, if there are thoughts that anyone has had on this of what you would like to see in this, or if there are any resources that you could direct us in to keep this appropriate and what we all want this to be, then we would certainly appreciate the input there. The plaque, we would like to update the plaque as part of this project. We think we could certainly keep the essence of what's currently on the plaque and meet any sort of display guidelines with the city and the Historic Commission that we need to be in, but we would like to perhaps enhance some information. And then of course, would like to have the leadership Brentwood recognition if possible for the group that's going to put a lot of elbow grease and a lot of TLC into this. So we're going to be very proud of it and would like to have that opportunity. Next slide. So timeline, this is a just general overview of where we're at with time. I know Leadership Brentwood, the program itself has been extended a couple months due to the pandemic. So that this timeline I think we're still on target for this timeline, but it may slide into the summer a little more just based off the activities of Leadership Brentwood. But this is generally what we're looking at. We're going to start by cleaning the site. We talked about bringing a professional in for the ivy. The Lexan cleaning is pretty straightforward. It's essentially a mild detergent and some elbow grease. You wouldn't want to use any sort of harsh chemicals on that, and we want to see how that plays out. And then depending on the options that we decide to move forward with related to the water mitigation and the cellar doors, plaque, and then promotion as needed. But this is the general time frame we're looking at for this. Next slide, please. So this is just some additional information about what I've talked about already. If we're going to run through the Lexan, we've actually got, I'm very familiar with this product. I actually do quite a bit of behavioral health hospital design, and we use this product quite a bit. It's glass alternative that's very common in the industry to use. And so the manufacturer was able to pull information on suggested cleaning methods, what we should do with it. So we're going to follow the manufacturer's instructions on cleaning the Lexan, both inside and out. And we're hoping that we'll get some positive results out of that, that it'll be an improvement of what's there now. I think the overall feeling is we're not looking to reinvent the wheel there and introduce a new product or do too much work on that. We're just we're going to take the approach of seeing if we can do a thorough cleaning of what's there, and hopefully we'll see some good results out of that. So we've done just some concept renderings. This slide's very conceptual, but it kind of lays out in a plan view and then a perspective view of some general things that we're looking at. The display barrel, we do want to incorporate those items, the ivy removal, the shelves, the cleaning of the panels, and then we've got some thoughts on the stair covers. So we can continue to develop these further if anybody on the commission would like to continue to see our progress here, and we can give a final plan of what we want to do here for final approval. This is a rendering of the existing root cellar and what something could possibly be if we were to cover those stairs, and again, looking at something in the spirit of what's over at the Sayers house. That would be a wood structure that we would hire a professional. We could design and hire a professional to install. But we think this is what it could look like potentially on the exterior if we were to enclose those steps. And that I know that was quite a bit, but that's it. That's where we're at. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts on this, and we look forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Kathy Greaves here, one of the Joshes. On the doors, are you looking at all across the steps down to where the gate is? Does that become a complication because of the gate and everything?
So with the gate, is that you're talking about the iron gate that's
Yes,
around
the iron around it.
So that is something we need to study closer. If you introduce cellar doors, obviously those are going to open out, and you're going to need access. So if that railing presents an issue there, and that was a question I had, and I don't know if anyone in this group knows, was that railing installed as a safety measure, or has it always been there? I was unclear on the history on that railing.
I don't know.
I think it's always been there since the city has had the property.
Yeah, we would, go ahead.
I don't know when it was installed, but I know when we bought the property, it was there.
Okay. Yeah, we would have to look closely at that. Again, you would want the access to be able to get in. We would like to consider possibly taking it out if it made sense. But if there's a strong objection to that, or we think that could present some issues, we could see if there's alternatives there. But that was something we wanted to put on the table, was possibly removing that railing.
Carol Krieger here. I guess my only question is, if you cover it up completely with a wooden door, then you can't see the steps, you can't see the door, you can't see how people would actually get into it. That's my only, I guess, it's not a question. It's just that you can't see how you would actually get into the cellar. And I don't know if people are interested in that, but I am. That's my only, not objection, but if you close it off completely, then you can't see any of the stone or the the steps or the door.
And
Yeah,
Josh,
that's a fair comment. And go ahead, Linda. I think Linda was talking to you.
the stones and the wall going down, I think are original. That's what I've been talking to all the historic people, and they checked it out, and they said that they were original to the, to the cellar. So I'm with Carol. That's just my concern, is that people are going to be interested in seeing it. If we could do it with something else where they could see through would be fine. But then again, you've got to make it where we can get down into the cellar. So
Right.
that's just some suggestions.
Yeah.
Lois Hooker here. And just in the same vein, are people going to be allowed to go down into the cellar, or is we're just going to be viewing through the windows?
That
I'll answer that because that's a city question. Is that for liability reasons, we will not allow people to go inside the root cellar. Those stairs are not built to current day code, so a person's foot could not step there, and people's feet are bigger today than those steps are. And also, if it's wet and rainy, you could slide right down through there, and that's a liability issue. So no, this is just for visual viewing from the outside.
Inetta Gaines here. So if the prominent reason is to make sure that it's original, which they, you're saying that they are, but we want to preserve them, then the best thing to do is to preserve them. So if they can be opened, if the doors can be opened at some point, if there's schools that are touring it or tour or whatever, they can be opened and see the original, but since people aren't going into it, they're not allowed to go into it anyway. And maybe a picture, like one of the pictures we just saw, could be presented somewhere near it to show if people are just passing by. But I think to preserve the original stairs and make sure that they don't continue to deteriorate, I think that should be the main goal.
Yeah, and that was just a quick comment to the last lady who spoke. So that we were trying to work through that exact very point there, and we even had talked about maybe doing something more like an awning, right word, but where it would protect the stairs and you could see very easily, and then the water would run off, and we kind of scrapped that idea. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, is that the issue, one, there's the liability issue that Deanna brought up, but also just we want to make sure that for generations to come, this is here, and water does a lot of damage, and so we're just trying to think through what kind of practical and, again, period-esque solutions that we could put in, so that in 10 and 20 and 50 years from now that folks can still enjoy that. So yeah, thank you.
And we could look at something. There's already Lexan being used as a viewing mechanism on the building. If there was a way to incorporate a viewing panel in, I think there just has to be a balance of if we put the viewing panel in, are we inviting people to lay on the door and look in the panel? I think it's just kind of, it's a give and take, but I certainly understand the comments about being able to see it. I think that's a good solution that was just discussed about, when there's field trips and things, you can open it up and that'll be visible. I think that's a nice solution to that. And then,
Josh, and here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. What I think I'm hearing is people don't want the steps covered. I don't know what year that root cellar was put there, and when those steps were put in. They just may have gone down a dirt pathway in the beginning to get to it. I don't know, but we want it to be as original as possible, and it survived with water going into it for how many 100 years now. So I think it might still survive another 50. But city understanding that they may periodically have to go in and clean up a water situation. You take that on when you take on a historic site sometimes, that there are things you have to do over a period of time to preserve it. I like everything you're proposing except covering those stairs. So, but I do have a question on the signage. I think we try to keep all of our interpretive signage consistent at our various city parks. So this one would need, in my opinion, of course, I can be outvoted, and that's true, I can be. So I want people to have their own thoughts on this. I want it to be consistent. I would not want to see y'all's names on that, but I wouldn't have any objection to some type of little plaque or something, because I think that encourages community volunteerism. And you'll take your kids there and say, look at Dad's name, look what Dad did. And that encourages children to become interested in the community. I just wouldn't want it on the interpretive side.
Understood. I think that's a nice, that's a fair statement. And I think separating those two, that's certainly something we could do and understand that, what you're saying there. And I appreciate your comments on, yeah, we are going to be very proud of this and want and the ability to, get more people thinking about leadership Brentwood and just volunteering in the community. You're exactly right.
So I just wanted to point out the photos that are on the screen. These are from Linda's vault. And if somebody could please mute their microphone, I feel like we hear a lawnmower. I'm sure we don't hear a lawnmower today, but these are photos from Linda's files. This looks like maybe one of the first photos we have. Linda may recall when this was taken, but it looks like there was a different type of door. It looks like some straw right here. Looks like this might have just been installed. I don't know. Linda may have more to add here.
Okay, you're talking about the one we're looking at now?
Yes.
It's the door is open there. It is a wooden door that closed, but
There you go. Okay.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yes, you can see through it.
Yes, that door is just open. It's not that, because it's I think the original wooden door there, and we tried to keep it.
And then there's another photo. This photo is also of the root cellar. I don't know what year this was taken.
This was taken when the city was working on it. They were able to save the brick wall, and that's the wall that is at the far end of the root cellar. The root cellar is down below. We came in and we had a historic, in fact, his name was Big Hood, that came in and restored the top of the roof of the cellar, similar to what he felt like it would have been at that time. Does that help with the question? Also, I might mention, when I was in charge of all the interpretive signs, and some of them, like at the Prim property, which is the school, not the house, but if anyone would underwrite the sign, we did put their name very small down the right-hand side. And I know we do have a leadership group that did that. And I think it's the Spring House at the library. But some we have not. The city, or the city funded them, but the ones that we could get funds for, there was, and probably no one's noticed it. I mean, nothing against Josh or anything, but I think that we put it on there because they underwrote the sign, and they did one.
Correct. And I appreciate you saying that, Linda. For those who are new to the group, Linda was in my position previously for 30 years. And then I came on board. And so my supervisor, Jay, and I have definitely spoken about this. And we would prefer that there not be a smaller separate plaque. But if this group is willing to pay for the interpretive sign, which is about $2,500 these days, then we're fine with them listing their name on the sign, which also there is another sign for the WSM Tower out by the library. And this one also lists a Leadership Brentwood group because ironically, Jay Evans, our assistant city manager, was a part of that group as well.
But Deanna, if they're not willing to fork over $2,500, because that's a lot of money for one little small group to raise, what is the objection to a small plaque?
Really, if Leadership Brentwood group comes out and does something, then there's a plaque out there for them. If Green Space comes out and does an improvement project, then there's a sign for them out there. If another group comes out and does an improvement project, then there's a third sign. So it's just to try to keep, I guess, a limitation a little bit on like maybe having 10 signs out there. If there's a different way to do it, but obviously it's up for discussion.
Well, maybe, you know, I certainly understand that because it could start looking like a graveyard after a while with all these little in-ground plaques. But maybe if we set some standards, you know, it had to reach, the project had to be of a certain level to get a plaque in the ground, you know. I don't,
Yeah,
I'm just saying if we can encourage volunteerism, good, but again, we don't want it to look tacky, so.
I certainly agree with you. And my Leadership Brentwood group in 2018, we didn't pay for the pavers by any means, the $85,000 that it cost, but our group did help in conjunction with working with the city to get that project started. And so our group does not have any recognition for that out there.
Well, boo-hoo, go back and put a plaque up.
I know, we did a ribbon cutting though.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of to go back to the cover. You know, I think it is a question of do we manage the water? Do we try to control the water? Or do we just deal with the water and it's part of it? I think that's kind of the big question because really what we're seeing to give a fighting chance to keep water out, this is probably the best solution. I mean, that's a very just task at hand if we want to keep water out, all historical things aside. We feel this is the best solution. There's nothing with a drain that we feel like is gonna be cost effective or effective at handling the water. So you know, I think that it's just begs the question, and if we decide to not cover it and we want to leave it exposed as is, I mean, we could do more where the displays are off the ground. So when the water does come in, there's less impact on those displays, hopefully. So yeah, I think that's it's just a decision there of what how we would want to handle that.
What about a drain? This is Lois Hooker talking. What about a drain system in the floor of the root cellar?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is with the drains is you've got to, for a drain to be effective, the water's got to drive towards the drain. So with a dirt floor, that can be challenging to grade that the right way and then have it, the minute somebody walks on it, it would probably have an issue, would be the challenge. You know, we even thought about maybe a trench drain at the door, but there's not a lot of room, again, with, you know, someone had mentioned earlier about codes nowadays versus, you know, just build whatever you want back then. But there's not a lot of room at that door to even get some kind of trench drain in to try to catch that water before it goes in there. And normally, you know, if we were building this today, we would have a concrete slab that we would slope that slab to have all that water going through towards that drain. And that's just not the condition we have here. And I certainly don't think we would want to put a concrete slab in there, and that would be very expensive. And so.
Kathy Greaves here. I'm actually for putting some covering over it. I was the one that met you all out there, and we talked about the water problems, and it's not just the running down water, but the moisture that stays in there as the water sits in there. I would not like to see the clear grass put on it simply because of what we discussed with Alexan and the safety of crawling all over it. I would prefer to see more of a historical, such as a Sawyer or something like that. But I do think there is a need that those stairs pile with leaves and water runs down them, and it runs down and it sits inside there, and it's going to be hard to mitigate anything else or even keep anything decent in there if that water is still an issue.
This is Sherry. I agree with Kathy. I would imagine that at some point there had to have been a cover on there, because that's the way it was really done back in those days. So I would like to see it covered. I don't think people really care about that door. So
Sherry,
that's my
Sherry, I tend to agree with everything you said there. And if you look at this picture below, it does appear in the brick that there's some difference in the brick when you look above the door. It almost implies that something was there, I think, at some point.
Yes, that's what I was seeing. So
Yeah.
So I would go with covering it.
That's
Yeah,
where the cellar concept comes in, is to have a covered door. I mean, a covered stairwell. I'm not an expert on root cellars, but I know the ones I've seen, like the Sayers house, they do have some kind of a cover, and that's the cellar concept. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think he's done a good job looking at other locations, and there may be a little bit more exploration we need to do to be sure we get something period specific. But I think you are going to have something from a liability, because I would imagine moss grows on those steps, and anybody that is playing in that area, children, it's probably a hazard to them. And they're going to probably climb that little fence that's there, because it's not necessarily a fence to keep many people out, but it does protect it some. I'm with Sherry and Kathy on looking at something to try to cover that area.
So Josh, is your group going to put that up, or you're going to get bids for it so that we know, or is the city going to put it up?
The current plan is for us to come up with the design, and we would get a qualified builder or contractor to give us a quote, and we could do a couple bids just to compare some things. But I think the intention is our group would fundraise for it, or have donations amongst our organizations that we work for, to try to cover the costs, or to cover the costs associated with this.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comment or questions?
I have one more question, Carol Krieger. Would the fence that's all the way around it, would that come down, or would it stay up on the sides, and then where glass is that people look in, would the fence stay there? Or
I think the fence is just at the
Carol, there is
stairwell.
no fence on the side.
Say that again.
Carol, there is no fence on the side.
Where
the fence just goes around the walkway.
Okay.
And that's what we were talking about originally. He said he would have to further investigate whether that needed to be asked to come down.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And what I'm hearing from the board is that I think maybe there's some people, and we have to give credit to Linda because she was very, very involved when the city obviously purchased this property. I think there might be some question as to whether that wrought iron fence is original or not. So I don't know if it's worth maybe pursuing that with maybe asking someone who's still around to verify that with the property, because between these two photos here on your screen, it really looks like on the photo on the right, the wrought iron is very shiny and bright looking, whereas the photo on the left was taken a couple of weeks ago and it looks very old and weathered, and the brick or the rock structure going down to the cellar looks very new and bright on the right side, whereas it looks very weathered and worn here in the current picture on the left. So I obviously have no idea if this is original, but I don't know if somebody else on the board may want to, you know, research that.
I don't think it's original. Truthfully, I think the Smiths probably put it up as a safety measure. And I wonder if we could get in touch with some of them to see if they were the ones that did it.
I know there was some ironwork up around the driveway, but I don't remember this necessarily being there originally, or who were involved, but it may have been. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
I feel like there was probably a cellar door there originally, and then this might have gone up in the absence of a cellar door being there, if I had to guess, just looking at other historic structures. But I'm not sure you wouldn't want to keep some kind of little fence of some kind around, maybe move it back, but to protect the cellar door, because it's going to be a jumping pad for children and a staging location for photographers, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be used as a flat surface staging area for whatever we put there. So it might be we just have something and move that back some or whatnot. But I do remember there being a fence very similar to that up around the driveway between the house and where the storage facility is right now.
Yeah, Ashley,
Uh-huh.
it was there. It wasn't, you know, around the
Okay.
cellar or the pump or anything. What they did was say, and I don't know how they did it. It was rusted and everything else, and they found it. Some of it was being used around the drive, and they really just redid it. They
Okay.
blasted
Okay.
it and then repainted it. But as far as the house and how long it's been there, I have a feeling the Smiths put it up. You know, they lived there for years and years, but I feel like they are the ones that put the fence up. And
Okay.
then we had it, and that was one of the suggestions from one of the historic restoration people, were to take
Right.
it and make it so that they could use it for this purpose. I don't think there'd be a problem at all if they wanted to, you know, move it somewhere else or take it down or anything like that. But the only good thing would be to keep people off the roof, maybe.
Let us dive into that a little more. You know, if there's a solution where we can either keep the fence where it is as an extra layer of protection, just something else we're not disturbing, or the potential to move it back. But if we could look at that door design, I mean, we just want to make sure you can get into the space. The folks that need to get into the space can. So let us work on that, and we can report back on some suggestions there.
Josh, this is Lois Hooker. I have a question for Josh Stewart. What are your plans for lighting the space so that the people visiting will be able to see the inside the root cellar?
So we currently are not. We do not have any electrical lighting scope in our project. Again, I think we're just trying to stay within a doable amount that we can handle. I think for that we may have to look at either one or the other. If we went away from the door, then we could maybe go into a lighting project. But I think between running power out there and appropriate fixture selection, there would be some cost with that would be, I think, too much for us to take on all of that.
Okay, so it'd just be light of day.
It would just be light of day, yes. And I think I don't know if there's anything out there now.
No, there is not.
Okay.
We have lights. That's actually been an issue with Ravenswood Mansion because we have a lot of our tenting companies that break down out there late at night after events end at 10. And so we have been in the process of trying to add some more extra lighting out there. but it wouldn't be a specific light that shines like inside that root cellar. So that would involve like running some electrical wires over there.
Yeah, and again, just to kind of, that is a whole other, we have to draw the power from somewhere, and without knowing the capacity of the existing facility, that's something that can really balloon on you quick with electrical costs. We have to add another panel or something like that. So I love the idea. I think it would be great to introduce some lighting into the space, and we would love to see that. But I think where we're at, we would not be able to support that, I don't think, financially.
I'm sorry, but I fell off the call. If this question was already asked, I apologize. But you mentioned, Josh, about the water coming in the steps. Do you know if water's coming from anywhere else? Is there any other source, or is it only from the steps?
There potentially is. I mean, I think if you look at the roof, the roof does have a big slope to it, which gives you a good chance at keeping water out. But I would assume that there is a little bit of water intrusion coming just from probably at the Lexan panel joint. And that is something we could look at as part of this. We could maybe put some clear sealant around that Lexan when we clean it to try to help with that. And then as far as the roofing substrate and the shingles themselves, there was no scope we were going to address with that, but you potentially could have some intrusion. It's not a roof that a 2021 roof. It's an older structure, and appropriately so. But yeah, and I think the point that this brings up is like these doors won't take every drop of water out of there, but I think it can help with a lot of the water that's collecting on the floor, where that's getting really damp and a lot of pooling in that floor. I think it will definitely help.
This is Kathy. Allison, we had someone come out a couple years ago to do an assessment on the roof. And at that point in time, they felt all the water was coming from not the roof, any of the roof problems, but down through the steps and probably seeping through the brick. There's various other points, but they focused on the main point was down the stairs through the door on heavy rains. And it could be actually coming off the roof down to the stairs that way as well.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any other questions? Well, the Joshes, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And thank you for all your work and suggestions and doing the preliminary work. We are so appreciative that your group is willing to take this on, because it's been needed for so long.
Well, we're excited. Yeah, we're excited about it, and we'll definitely want to make this something that'll an improvement, and to help this piece of our history stay around as long as we can.
One last question, Sherry. Could you find out if they're bringing a final plan back to us before you implement what you're doing?
Yeah, we would be happy to do that, and would definitely want to do that, obviously, with the sensitivity of what we're doing here. We want to have buy-in and everybody's input on that, so we can take it to the next level as far as detail on the door construction. I think all the other items, unless I'm mistaken, are pretty straightforward. I mean, just the cleaning and the ivy removal, and we can bring back more information on what we're going to actually display in the cellar for review and comment. But yeah, I think that is definitely the next step we would want to take.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. So if you want to go off the call, that's fine. You're welcome to stay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to drop the work meeting, but I appreciate y'all, just like Josh said, and we'll follow back up with that final draft. So thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Have a great day.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
I also am going to drop off. Thanks everyone for your time. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Does anyone else want to comment on that? Are we done? I think we're good. Okay, so Lois, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? Are there any corrections? Wait, we can't hear you, Jenny.
I have one correction to the minutes. Can you hear me,
Yes.
Madam Chair? Okay. The, on the second page, it has in there related to the prim property conditions, sorry. It says Ashley is of the opinion that the home is not salvageable. I didn't really say it was not salvageable. I did make the point that it was a danger probably to people going in and out of the house, and that it was unfortunate that it had gotten in that condition, but I'm not an expert to be able to say whether it's salvageable or not. So yeah, I just want to make that clear. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes with the correction? Oh, Jenny.
I think Jenny, because I told her it sounds like a lawnmower when she unmutes. I asked her if she needed me to say anything, and she said for the minutes she's not listed as present or absent, so she just wanted to bring that to the attention.
Oh.
You were present last time.
And then Bridget Day's name is spelled incorrectly.
Okay. Okay.
This is Lois. What is the correct spelling of Bridget Day's name, please?
It is BRID as in David, GID, and then Day, DAY.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept the minutes with these corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second?
Kathy Greaves, second.
All in favor? Oh, I got to call the roll. Ann, Dunn?
Aye.
Carol?
Approved.
Ashley? Okay. He can give a thumbs up. I think he's on the phone. Kathy?
Approve.
Jenny? She can give a thumbs up if we can see her. Inetta?
Approve.
Jody?
Approve.
Linda? Linda Lynch? She drop off? Lois? Oh, you get one. Sherry, I approve. Tara?
Approve.
And Allison?
Approve.
Okay. Okay, carries. Okay, so for our first committee is Ann Dunn with the History Bowl.
Okay, we seem to be set. As of 2 weeks ago, 7 of the 9 schools had accepted. And I check with them about every week or so during the last month, especially this year, but their numbers are so different from week to week. As of 2 weeks ago, 5 of those 7 were absolutely sure they were coming. 2 schools, one is very iffy because they've had so much COVID and they haven't been able to practice. the other one, she told me, she said, we'll be there. I don't have a team yet, but we'll be there. So I'm counting on them. I don't want to use the names today. So I contacted them this week. Summit has sent me their team names. I told them Monday by noon is the deadline. So we'll either have 5, 6, or 7 teams, it appears. I have 7 scorers. If we end up with only 6 teams, I won't need one of the scorers. Is there anybody who absolutely needs to be excused that night that is a scorer? I've got Jenny and Annetta from our board. So you're both okay staying? If I can let one of the non-historic board people go if I don't need them as a scorer.
Jenny said she plans to be there, Ann.
Okay, good. All right. Well, if I don't need one of them, I'll go to some volunteer who's not on our board and tell them, you know, that they're off the hook that night. Everything has been taken care of. I don't want to go through all those details. Everybody knows what their job is and they're doing them. Carol, I just need to find out if you've been able to get to Nolensville to get the trophy yet.
Yep.
Carol?
I don't know.
Have we lost Carol Cricker?
Carol's on mute.
Oh.
There you go, Carol. I think, oh, there you go. Nope, back on mute. You're still on mute, Carol. There.
No, there
You go.
Anyway, I have called over there and last week and got no answer. And then I have sent an email to the teacher, and that's their coach, and asked her if she will please put it in the office because in the past they've had trouble locating the trophy. So anyway, hopefully school will be back in next week and I'll go over there and get it and then take it to City Hall.
Okay. And if for some reason you can't, you know, we'll get it when we can, but this has been a crazy week.
I'll go get it.
Probably hadn't been over there at all because there's nobody there. So main business we need to decide this morning, and then I'm through with the history ball, is we need to decide how much prize money we're going to give out this time.
Well, I think we should just go back to what we did last year.
Well, Sherry, our philosophy is that we give out, I mean, we're free to change it, but what we've done is we have approximately between $4 and $450 in expenses. And we've said all the rest of it, we need to use in prize money. So how much do we have this year?
I don't know.
Well, somebody does.
That would
It's
be
been
Jody,
raising
right?
money.
Jody? I think that would be Jody.
Deanna, has any other checks come in? We should have $2,750, if I'm correct.
Yes, the only checks that I know have arrived are the ones I told you and Ann about.
So Jared Peters has still not turned his in.
I have not seen it, but I could check.
I'm gonna text him right now and just ask him if he, remind him. He said he was committed to doing it.
If y'all don't mind, just send a list of the sponsors when you get it finalized, and I'll make sure it's in the PowerPoint, giving them recognition and everything.
Yeah, I need it for the program too.
While she's checking, let me bounce over to the adult history bowl. We can get that covered. I reserved a room for the third Sunday in August for that. And it occurred to me yesterday, Kathy, that's when you usually have your open houses at Boiling Spring. I think the library is wide open that I could go back and get the second Sunday if everybody would be agreeable to that, if that works better.
Mhm. I think that works better. Do we need to vote?
Something when you're not in the room, I'm not getting any response to these questions.
Yeah.
The only thing with that weekend for me, Anne, would be I might be moving my son to college. So that's an unknown because I haven't set the dates yet, but I plan to be there if he's not.
Well, I hope for all our sakes, they're going off to college this year and they're not having to stay home. So we'll celebrate that. And the whole thing may fall through. You know, we may not even have a good community response. And the library is very understanding. I said, I'll let you know in June if we still need the room. So I'll switch it to the second Sunday so we don't interfere with our open houses, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Do you have your information, Jody?
I texted him and he has not replied yet. But I do know we have the Kaplan family turned in $1,000. Soy Bistro turned in $1,000. Marla Richardson and Andrews Cadillac have both turned in their money. Am I missing anybody else? And there's some folks that I just never even heard back from this year. And Ray Little apologized. He said that just due to his business being hurt so much last year, he would not be able to do it this year.
Well, this is the most we've ever run. That's wonderful. So we know we've got 2,500, probably 2,750. Knock off 500, and what do you want to do with the rest?
I don't know.
Can you remind, what did we do last year? I'm so sorry, I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was 750, 500, and what? 250, something like that.
Yes, I think so.
So a total of 1,450 all added.
$1,500. 15.
That's it.
1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, 15. So I don't know. If you want to give out all the money.
Well, I had thought of something, and y'all feel free to say no, that we're starting something we might have to keep up. I just thought this year has been so tough on them getting teams together and the kids finding a chance to practice, and they're trying so hard to make it happen. I thought, you know, can we give them the 3 prizes to the 3 winning teams? But could we like give a $10 Chick-fil-A gift card to every kid that participated and every coach this year who made this happen? You know, that way our prize money's not shooting up real high that we'd have to hit that same amount next year, but we are all spending what our sponsors give us on the History Bowl. So that's just another thought. Y'all give me some input. I'm open to any suggestion.
Well,
This is Inetta Gaines. I think that's a great idea, Anne.
Okay. How much is the plaque, Inetta?
I believe it's $35. Deanna, you probably have an invoice from it from last year. I think it's $35.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be picking that up on Monday. It'll be ready Monday.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's probably a good idea because we're not going to have a lot of people there. So, you know, I guess we just have to say this has been an unusual year that we don't do this every year so that they don't expect it next year.
We probably have, if they all show up and they all have a full contingency of 4 per team, we probably have 35 people. That's $350.
Okay.
And then we could, why don't I work out some numbers and email y'all? I think this is the kind of thing that we can firm up as a board over the weekend. That's not violating any sunshine law or anything. Just when we have our numbers in hand. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
And just
Yes.
get some feedback from everybody on
Yes.
a plan
Sounds
A,
good.
plan B. And you all can decide which ones you like, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. And if we do it, I'll go get the Chick-fil-A things. I'll handle that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Okay. Kathy, the Bowling Spring Academy virtual field trip video was fabulous.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for you and Carol and the MARM and working with the schools to make it happen. I know that was a huge project for you all. So, but it was well worth it. So, do you have any comments from?
I don't really have any additional comments because you've all received, hopefully you've had an opportunity to look through them, to see the videos, to see the study guides, the 360. What we ended up basically paying was well under $1,000, and that includes for the 360. We had some drone coverage. We paid the school marm. We got off really light on that one, needless to say. And that's Kay Gilbert, our school marm. And I thought she did a great job. I was real pleased. So I really don't have any updates except encouraging you, for those of you that do Facebook or anything like that, put the information out there so that we can get it out to the public.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
I should ask, were there any questions about anything that we did? We tried to stay true to the program, a very simple program, but direct.
Yeah, I think it was great. Okay. Thank you so much.
I think Carol was trying to say something. She's on mute, but
Muted. Am I there now?
You're there.
yeah.
Now you're off.
You're muted still, Carol.
Unmute.
Now.
Now I'm there.
Now you're there.
There. Okay. I just
Yeah.
want to say that Parker from Williamson County Schools was absolutely wonderful. I don't think his name gets mentioned in anything, but he was the most patient person I have ever worked with, and he had to be to work with all of us women. But I think it turned out great, and I hope that the schools utilize it and parents utilize it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sherry, can
Carol,
I
this
say
is Lois.
one more
This is
thing?
Lois.
Sherry,
Yes.
one more thing. If you all could come at 6:30 Thursday night.
Okay.
And we've got a setup team for that morning, but everybody who is coming, if you don't have something to do that night, stay home and stay safe, and we'll see you next year. But 6:30, okay?
Okay. All right. Great. Okay, Lois.
Yes, Carol, I just wanted to say I really loved your walking tour in the videos. I think you did a great job with that.
Okay, great. Okay. Did you all have a chance to read the reports and Ashley's about the Brentwood room? So you are up, Ashley.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. The if you didn't have a chance to read the report, you'll see that there is a new he's a library services manager named Dustin Goforth, and Sherry and I had a fairly lengthy call with him about where we are on the Brentwood room and trying to recoup some of the materials that had been sent to other libraries and also been disposed of. And so in that process, he sent us a list, and a number of those have come back from the Williamson County Library and Archives. So we're thankful for that. I've got that lengthy list to go through, but it appears that many of the ones that we would want to see retained in that room have come back. The ones that have not, I understand they have a commitment to try to replace those by purchasing those again. And so until I kind of go through one by one and see what's there, there's a number of them that have not been brought back that relate to things like other cities in Tennessee that may not specifically relate to the Brentwood room. So we're going to evaluate whether those need to be brought back or if it's all right for those to have been transitioned out. The other positive thing I think that came from the call was he comes from a background where he appreciates and recognizes history. He's written a book about his family history, so he's delved into genealogical resources, and I think he brings a lot of experience to the role that he's in at the library, and there's a real strong willingness to work with us. As a matter of fact, they have already had a person offer a number of documents and materials to the Brentwood room, but just were not a good fit. But before he did anything, he talked with Sherry and I about, do we want these to be in there? There were some documents from the Filson Society in Kentucky, which relates to Kentucky history and things like that just are not a good fit for that room. But he was nice enough to give us first opportunity to decide and not just arbitrarily make that decision. So I'm very pleased and excited that we have a good contact there now. And there's some other things, of course, that we'll be working with them on identifying. They have a policy update that they have done in the last year that we had input on. And so I've asked him to revisit that we are also looking at that, but there may be some expanded topical areas of interest that need to be in the Brentwood room that, for instance, there was heavy on Civil War history. Well, it needs to have more all wars, from Revolutionary to most recent, even Vietnam War, for people that serve from our area. Also in the other areas of interest, African American studies, local representation, all those type things. So he was excited about thinking about other possible topics that we could add to and make that more inviting for folks to come and use that room. We also talked about the signage, electronic signage, and then looking at QR codes and things like that could be at the entrance to show people. A lot of times people just punch up their QR code to see what's available and in there. So we looked at some of those options as well, and he says they have plans to do some things like that in that room and want to work with us on that. So I guess with that, any questions y'all might have at this point?
Okay. Well, one thing he also said was he's going to digitize the oral histories. And so we'll be able to put those, Deanna will be able to put those on the YouTube. But we'll also be able to have them, which will be great. So, and then,
That's right.
yeah, so I don't think they have all the oral histories in the library in that Brentwood room. So he may have to use the ones that they have in the vault to do them. So I'm sending him a list of all the oral videos that we have. And so the other thing he said, they were going to try to digitize a lot of the manuscripts and things that they had, so they can upload that and have it in, which would be awesome. And then you can just go online and search that way, which would be great. So I think he's pretty forward thinking. So that's
I got that impression,
good.
and I appreciate Tara just sent around the book that he had written, a link to that for folks that want to go and look at that. I haven't seen that, so thanks for forwarding that.
That's great. Okay. Anyone have any questions? Okay. The Bugle, Lois. I put you on the list because didn't you write were you in charge this time? You stepped up and we're going to write something for our Bugle this time.
Yes, I sent it to everyone on the email for you to read and send corrections or additions.
Okay. All right. I didn't see that. I will make sure I check it. And so what about for the next issue? Are you in charge then for the
I'll
one
be
in the
glad to
fall?
be. I'll be glad to, unless somebody has something. And you know, even if you want, we can work together on an article, or you know, if you have something you already know you want to do solo, that's fine. But you know, Deanna is also the go-to person with the Bugle article as far as the final product.
Thank you, Lois, for getting that done so early. It is one of the things that's on my to-do list right now to get done this month, in coordination with a lot of other things. I do like to keep those articles, even though it's about history, timely to what's going on right now. So I appreciate Lois working with me and making it fit into this month's Bugle, or the spring newsletter is about the police department's 50th anniversary. So that is why it had the tone of history about the police department. And she wrote her article based on the videos that are already on YouTube, the interviews that Tom Bain did years ago with the Chief Butcheries and Watson. So we'll also advertise for people to go find those and watch the full. It's about 40 minutes worth of an interview on YouTube. So thank you, Lois. I think once we get the spring edition done, we can kind of figure out what our theme will be for fall. And if anybody has ideas, certainly think about it. But I have not got that far yet.
Okay. All right. Well, you'll let us know, right? Okay. And done. Fuchs Mounds and landmark status update.
I think I sent out a long letter to all of you, and Allison, I'll get you a copy of that because you weren't on the board. But I did hear from Valerie Altuser this week, one of the two archaeologists that is helping us, and she was sending a copy of the amendment to the contract. You know, they were due to be paid in January, but since they went on and actually filed the application with the National Park Service, they prefer to wait till that we hear back from us too. So anyhow, we talked about 20 minutes. She has had the opportunity, and I don't want to overstate this, but right now, our little area of the country seems to have a lot of members of the National Park Service who vote on these projects nearby. She has managed to get our project in front of 3 very critical people on that committee. And of course, they don't make any comment one way or the other because they can't, but they have all read it and have been encouraging. So I don't want to get ahead of myself because I tend to get too excited and then it would be too disappointing. But she seemed to be really excited this week. And a lot of what she's, I think I told you all that she had said early on that there are a lot of these mounds, and a mound they need to be able to find something, or there needs to be the suggestion that there's more to be learned from it for it to actually make this status. And she said, the work, and we can be very pleased that we got Kevin Smith working with us. A lot of what Kevin did in tying it into the slavery movement in the area, and then the hiring of George, what's George's last name, Ashley? Do you remember?
George Woods.
George Woods, for African American. I don't think he was a formal archaeologist, but he was an excavator. That was one of the first times that someone of the African American heritage had worked on an archaeology project in Middle Tennessee, not just our site. And the fact that the Fuchs site apparently introduced some scientific methods of excavation that had not been used before. And these things were exciting to the people that she shared that with. So that may be helpful to us. And so she thinks probably by March, the end of March, we should hear something one way or the other. But that's where we are with that right now. So just see if our application to apply gets approved.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for all that work, Ann. That's really terrific.
Well, I didn't do any real work. I did take the time to write a thank you note to the lady at UT, Dr. Candace Hollenbach, when I wrote her a year ago saying, do you know anyone that could help us? And about 2 months later, she sent these names. And by then I'd almost forgotten about it, but it's interesting how one little thing leads to another little thing. And she was delighted that we've been so pleased with them and they've been so helpful. So Valerie wants to meet all of you when this is done, especially if we move forward. They want to come to Brentwood and meet with our group and get to know y'all. So I appreciate our dedication.
Well, we would enjoy that. Okay. Deanna, do you have any updates on the interactive website?
Yes, since we last spoke, I believe there have been a couple of changes. We did have a Leadership Brentwood group that was interested in taking the photos, but Leadership Brentwood, the organization, apparently did not approve that project because they did not think it was large enough in nature for the Leadership Brentwood group. So we do not have their help anymore. A Girl Scout did come and ask if she could help with some photography opportunities, and I have not heard back from her as to whether or not that she has been approved to help as a one of her Girl Scout awards that she's working on. So that is the unfortunate news, is that we have taken a couple of steps back on the photography, but we will figure it out, I'm sure. As far as Bridget Day working on the actual content that is out there now, she has already transcribed 50 of the 72 sites to Word document and that's basically taking the information that is on there on the website now and bringing it over. So there are 22 left, and she hopes to have the final 22 transcribed by the end of the month. At that time, she'll begin then editing and sending the drafts to me. We have a process for this. And then we can, I think it will work best if we go ahead and have someone from the Historic Commission maybe look over those, because once we put that information on the website, it's going to be very time intensive to go back and edit it that way. So she hopes to be able to submit those to the Historic Commission for site-specific editing and details, hopefully by March 31st. So that part of the project is moving right along. Phase 2 will be when she dives into the cemetery sites, and we may have to come back to you on this. She kind of underestimated the amount of time that it would take to transfer all that information over because of the extent of information that's out there for the cemeteries. And when you look at the website, there's information that pertains to who all is buried in those cemeteries and a lot of different specific record about that. So she's going to copy all that over and we will have the information. We're trying to figure out what information to then relay over to the website.
I was going to. This is Kathy, and I need to probably talk to you because we're missing like 20 plus cemeteries even on that list. So, and pictures, questions about whether they go over and all that kind of stuff. So you and I can talk about that at another time if possible.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Jody. Jody when we were trying to do press for finding someone to come forward for buying the Prim property. Jody was able to talk with some of the cousins, so she's going to relay some of that information to us because it was really interesting. So,
Hey, everybody. The first cousin that I spoke with was Joetta Sack Min, and she is the granddaughter of Sarah Prim Sack, and she lives in the DC area. So well spoken and such a it's a delight to talk to her. She talked a lot about her childhood at the house and talked a lot about just how beautiful it was back when she was a child and the daffodils and playing on the property. She said she said it was a very large family, and originally Mr. Prim, 7 of the 12 children were in the will. The girls and then the older boys, he told them that they were on their own. And she said that, you know, she's kind of funny. She told me it's okay to tell you this, but her grandmother and her Aunt Ruby, she said that they took great pride at that time in like the area in the home and everything. But she said her Aunt Ruby was a little crazy. But she said, like all large families, she said we were dysfunctional and we're fractured. And what happened, I guess, what the final split in the family was the property, the Prim property, where the Prim house, schoolhouse is and all that, and then where Montclair subdivision is. There were 4 family members who were in on that sale, and they received a proceed of that sale, and then they gave up any rights to the Prim house or all the property on the other side of the road. And she said that is when really the family situation deteriorated. And so the other cousin that I spoke with, Michelle Nunnery, she is the granddaughter of Rose Kate Prim. She lives in Murfreesboro, and she said both those girls' fathers were involved. And she said it was really sad, and the family never spoke again. And she, you know, they didn't even know that where their Uncle Charlie had died. They didn't know anything about this. They assumed the property was sold 10 years ago. They had no idea, and they had no interest, by the way, of like, they take full responsibility as a family for letting this happen. And she said, you know, we didn't get any money off of the sale. We didn't get no reason. We're just really hoping somebody saves the house. And it's such a beautiful property. And anyway, so it was very interesting talking to them. I took a lot of little notes and things that I need to type up, and I'm sorry I should have done that before, but those are just some of the highlights. But they did talk about just fond memories, and when after I let both of them know that a buyer had come forward, I mean, they were both in tears. They were just so overjoyed that it was being saved. So anyway.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay.
Sherry, this is Kathy.
Yes.
While
Okay.
we're talking about the Prims per se, I just want to remind the commission that Kath Cowan and I did all of that research. And you might pull it out just for your own remembrance of who owned the property and what we were trying to find out at the time about the structures and things like that. Just an update, you know, just reminding you that you've got the information out there.
Yes, thank you. Could you send that to Allison? Do you mind doing that so she would have that?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sorry, yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Has the purchaser of the property been disclosed yet?
I haven't heard anything.
Purchaser of the Prim house been disclosed?
Not to my knowledge. So.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it will be, you know, sometimes we can look at public record and see
My screen's locked up here.
of a transfer, but I don't know if it's going to go through an attorney or through I don't know. Normally I would check on that, but I'm just not sure how it's going to show up.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're thankful that it's saved. So, um, okay. Carol Krieger.
I'm having trouble with this.
All right. Now you're on. Now you're off. Try it again.
Now am I unmuted?
Now you're good.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, a lady, Lee Braswell, called me, and she grew up in Brentwood and moved away, and now she's back. She has two daughters that are at Scales, and she said that when they drive to school every morning, they started noticing spring houses on Murray Lane. And she said they came up with an idea that she would like to create a coffee table book highlighting the spring houses throughout Brentwood. And proceeds of the book could go to the Historic Commission and or to provide clean water to poor areas of the county or state. And I thought, oh, if you have to choose between us and poor areas, but anyway. She said she would like the Historic Commission's help in locating the spring houses throughout Brentwood. They would take photos of the house and assemble it into a beautiful book with historical information. If the spring houses were of interest to the public, if book sales were good, then other spring house related products and activities could be born, like a scavenger hunt, ornaments, blah, blah, blah. So we talked at length, and then she sent me a text, which I was reading from. And I guess my only problem with it is that there aren't that many spring houses in Brentwood, I don't think. I mean, I know where, like there's one at the library, there's one at Ravenswood, there's one at the Prim House, there are two on Murray Lane. I personally don't know if there are enough spring houses to make a book out of. Does anybody else? That was my only thing. And I told her I would, that we were having our meeting in March and that or in a whatever, and that I would run it by all of you and that I would get back to her. That's my question is, do you think there are enough spring houses, and how? I don't think they've ever been documented. I think you just have to drive around the city and look for them. Anybody have any ideas?
Kathy here. Carol, what about we sending all of us send to you the ones that we know, and you see, what kind of list shows up? Because I know there's the one over, in Bondbrook or right around there. Obviously, there's the Prim House.
Right.
So some of us have driven by. We know the one at Witherspoon, that's tucked away down there.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe each of us could send you one and you could compile a list from it.
That's an idea. Because, I like I say, I know that we have never an effort to see where all the spring houses are. And I know a lot of them probably are in people's backyards on the big properties. I'm sure there's one maybe on Old Smyrna Road, and the Sensing property. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's one there. I don't know. But that was my only thing is that, and that's a really good idea, Kathy, to have people just send me ones they know about. Because like I say, there may only be 10 or 15, but it sounds like she wants to do all the photography and put the book together and everything, and then maybe just give us proceeds of it or some of the sales.
Carol?
Yeah.
And Deanna, maybe we could put that question in our bugle. Contact the city if you know of a spring house.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Compile a list. We don't have to go into this lady's story, just
right.
put the question in the bugle that goes to every house in the city. If someone's got one there, they'll let us know, I think. I know of one on Mallory Lane that hasn't been mentioned, but that's not in our city, but it's very close.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, this is Inetta. There's one at Edmondson and Liberty Church Street. When you come off of Edmondson Drive, it's the Edmondson Little Spring House, and it actually has a large plaque with detailed information on the history of it.
I think the idea that Kathy had is a really good idea. If you know where there is one and where it's located, just send it to me, and then I can pass that along to her and see if she's still interested. And, you know, I don't think she wants us to do anything except help her locate the spring houses. It doesn't sound like she wants us to do anything other than that. I mean, I didn't go into all the details of it, but I thought it was a good idea since we don't really know where they all are. So why don't we do that? Why don't you, if you know where one is, send it to me. We'll get a list compiled, and then I'll get back with her, and then I'll check back with you. Does that sound like a plan?
I think that sounds good, and hopefully maybe you can squeeze a little line in on that bugle coming up. I think that would be great as well.
I think that's a good idea too.
And we probably could put it on the Facebook page.
That's a
Would
great
they be
idea.
interested in taking photos of historic homes also?
Say that again.
Would they possibly be interested in taking photos of historic homes also while they're out there?
Carol's husband is retired and is a marvelous photographer, and she needs to get him out of the house. He's perfect.
Carol, I'm going to friend Jerry on Facebook today.
He's not listening to this, but
I think the largest. I'm just going to say, I think the largest, most important spring house, you could start with the one at Ravenswood. It's apparently the head springs to the Little Harpeth right there. And it's a really large spring house that she could understand kind of how it functions and all I mean, that would be a great one to start with. And of course, all the other ones that we could come up with, it's a great idea.
Well, and see, there's a huge one on the Witherspoon property that very few know about, and it's a big spring house. But it's back in there behind houses, and I know it's there because I'm nosy. But it's a beautiful spring house. So I think that's a good idea. And yes, I will run the idea by Jerry to see if he would be interested in taking pictures of houses. Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Before we go on, I was amiss, and I really want Allison to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her. Do you mind, Allison?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to. Hey, everybody. My name is Allison Spears, and I'm really, I said earlier, to be a part of your group. Just excited this morning being on the Zoom and hearing all the great things that are going on. So it's really great. I'm a native of Middle Tennessee. I was born at Baptist Hospital in Nashville, and I grew up in Gallatin in Sumner County. Graduated from Gallatin High School, went to the University of Richmond in Virginia, and could not stay away from Middle Tennessee, so I returned shortly thereafter, after graduating, and have lived and worked in the area. My husband and I married in 2000, and we lived in Nashville. And then when we realized, after having 3 daughters, that we needed to do something a little different than living on a main road in Nashville, we started canvassing Brentwood and knew that's where we wanted to live. So we moved here 12 years ago. Well, we bought our house almost 12 years ago. And so we love it. We live in the west side of Brentwood, so we're almost as west as you can get and still be in the city limits, in Wildwood, the neighborhood Wildwood. So we love it. We love our community here. And I'm really just glad to be a part of a group. And I guess that's a good summation of me.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we were going to talk about fundraising in a pandemic. So anybody want to throw out some ideas that we might think about? Because maybe this book will be great, but we need to, we do get some grants, and which covers some of our programs. So anybody have any thoughts?
This is Kathy. I guess I'm going to ask, what are we fundraising for? we've had money in there that not all of it we've spent.
No.
What is it specifically, what are you focused on doing?
Well, I guess that is up to everybody. So, I know I've been a proponent of we don't need to raise money unless we have a focus.
Right.
So, but it's our funds are dwindling. So, how much of a kitty do we want to have? You know, how much do we really need? I think those are the things we need to consider. Do
Right.
we want to fundraise in order to help something, or that's
I guess the question goes back to our funds. We have still over 50,000, 60,000,
right.
and we don't have any major projects on the list coming up.
Right. So, I just think we're not going to be able to really do anything for this year, but we'll need to do something for next year. And hopefully, when we're out of this pandemic, we're going to be thinking about different projects to do. So,
Sherry, one thought, not on how to raise money, but one possible project. I think when we hear back from the National Park Service, if we go to the next level, we're going to be spending some money on getting that our group to present the second application, and that could be money that we would want to raise money. I mean, a project we might want to raise some money for.
Right.
I think there was some mention also of doing some sonar to determine the location of some of the graves and things on that site. So that might have some expense associated with it as well.
And then we talked about redoing some of the signage that's gotten really old.
Right.
And
The
then
markers.
hopefully putting a QR code on the sign with all the information that ties back to what Deanna's interactive project is. So that'll cost some money. So each sign is $2,500. So that's money. I think it's always good to raise money on what you're going to spend in that year. I always, in all my, my nonprofit work, we always had like a savings, but the goal was always to raise money of what you're spending in the year so that you're not taking down that money that's in the savings. So, that's what I'm really kind of concerned about, is that we've gone down 20,000 in just a few years. So, at this rate, we'll be down at zero, and then we're going to have to spend, we're going to have to really do a lot of big fundraising. But if we fundraise for what we spend in a year, then we're good. And if we have some left over, then it can go back into the savings. So that's always the way that I look at. And I'm also doing a budget, and you'll be getting financials starting next month, so that you all can see where all the money goes. So Deanna and I are going to work with Karen in doing some better line items so that we see that they're, exactly they're going into programs or where they're going. So, and then we don't have a big miscellaneous fund that we don't know what's in there.
Sherry. For Allison's benefit, I think we should point out that our Bowling Spring Academy program is paid for every year through a grant. So we're not spending out of our kitty for that.
Right.
The History Bowl is self-funded every year through our sponsorship, So that's not coming out of the kitty. And right now, there are our two biggest projects. Now, we've had a few things this year where they're, what did we spend $20,000 on this year?
Well, no, it wasn't this year. It's been
It-
over the last few years.
It's been about 4 years,
Yeah.
probably, and I'm not sure if we spent fully 20,000. Deanna probably could speak to that.
I don't know. We'll have a better idea next month. So, because our last fundraiser was the opening of Ravenswood. And that's a long time to go without having, some money. But also, if we, do a long-term plan, what do we want to see in the future? What do we want to, maybe fund in the future? Can you hang on? I don't have hot water, so it might be the, hang on.
One thing we can do, if you all think you want to try to, while Sherry's taking that call, one thing we can do is, and I suggested this be on the agenda, is to have an event. We at Ravenwood, when it first was purchased by the city, we had an open house event there, and at Oak Hall, which is another sister historic property. But I do know of a couple of historic property owners in the area that, with plenty of advance notice and the right event, would be willing to assist us in hosting some sort of an event to help the Historic Commission for historic preservation purposes. So thinking about a possible date in the future, if we do decide to do some sort of event in the future, we want to make sure that we gave our property owners plenty of notice to get ready for that. Question of what time of year, and do we try to do something this year, next year? What does that event look like? What's the program? Those are the kind of things that it takes 6 months to a year really to plan those properly, because you're bringing in catering, you're bringing in, all the various seating and things that might be necessary there. So that's something we can be thinking about well in advance, or should be thinking about well in advance, if we want to try to do an event like that. There's two historic properties. One has seating that could accommodate somewhere between 200 and 300 people, which would be a really large event. And the other one would probably be a much smaller, say 50 to 100 people. But depending on what type of event we want to have, they would both be on historic properties, and could be a pretty exciting thing for folks to attend. So with that, I had asked Sherry, we've talked about this since the rendezvous at Ravenswood was first hosted by the Historic Commission a couple of years ago, to think about, do we want to try to do something like that again? Because you could have, $100 a person, 200 people, you're raised about $20,000, depending on what you net. But we would have to create a plan for that and work well in advance to get ready for that. Parking and all those issues that you have to work through logistics on. Or you could do a much smaller event and charge a little more, but have a more intimate, bring in a speaker that somebody would be willing to pay and hear. So that's kind of what we need to think about. And it doesn't have to be decided this meeting, I don't think, but just trying to work ahead on something like that was our idea.
One thought, since I was on the 50th committee and we had the rendezvous at Ravenswood during the year of the 50th, we did not have a great, first of all, it was spring break or a fall break, but we did not have a very good response at an expensive event. To be quite honest, people really seemed to think the price was too high. So just throwing that out there. But I think if we did, I'd love to see it happen again. It's a fun event. It's just such a beautiful house to host a party in. But that might be something to think about, is if we do it, not, have it be so dressy or expensive. It seemed like people didn't want it. Cost was definitely an issue, and that's why we borrowed the name from the Historic Commission. We did that knowing that we might want to have have another event. So I think it's great. I don't know about planning for this fall. I would I just don't know right now with the way things are going. We had also discussed having in the fall for October, having like a ghost tour or something at Crockett Park. Are we still entertaining the idea of doing that?
I don't know unless everybody gets vaccinated by then. I'm not sure that people will come together in a group. So that's why I don't think we can really do a big event until, everybody is vaccinated and this COVID is under control. But I think we can plan for next year what we do. So
Yeah, I'm thinking
I thought that the thing at Crockett Halloween was not really fundraising as much as fun raising, something for children. I didn't know we had discussed that as a money maker.
And I may have misunderstood also. Question. I know that the Women's Club does ornaments, but I'm wondering, would that be something that we could do, is have ornaments of our historic properties?
well, they take our properties every year and do them, which is interesting.
Well, I just thought it'd be nice if we did ornaments for our, since they are Brentwood properties and we're the historic commission to benefit the city.
True.
I don't know how much revenue they raise from that. Do you have any idea? If it's, $20, $30 item, how much? Yeah.
I don't know. We can look into it.
Well, okay. It seems like, Sherry, you're asking us to think of specific things that we could say we would be raising money for, and that we might think about it starting next year. I don't see during this pandemic and the not knowing what's going to be happening, us doing anything like that the rest of the year, but we can start thinking of ideas and bring them to various board meetings and then kind of finalize something and go from there, I would think.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I knew we weren't going to do anything this year because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. So, but I just think maybe next year after everyone's vaccinated, people are going to want to be doing things. So, so I think that's what we need to focus on is, trying to, do some things that will be a positive and fun event.
Yeah, the only thing during a pandemic you can do is virtual, right? And so a lot of what I've seen are musicians that would donate maybe their time and their talents and the money raised for, I don't know, $5 to watch them perform virtually. That's the only thing that I can think of. I don't personally know any musician and wonderful stars, but if we do, that could be an option.
Well, that's a good idea.
And it's fun. It's kind of people just, have a happy hour, or if they want, at home, and they watch the show and they donate their money.
Hey, this is Inette. I just quickly throw in there, since Tara mentioned that, the African American Heritage Society, each year we have our black tie in February, and we just had ours virtually. And our biggest amount that comes in is our sponsors, but we actually raised over $16,000 with just $25 tickets. Anybody could watch it, but just $25 tickets. And overall, with our big sponsors and stuff, we raised over $35,000. It was
amazing,
pretty cool.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if anybody has a connection with the musician that I think people would want to see and would be willing to donate their time, or I don't know, a small little fee of some sort. But
it'd be great. It's a good idea. Okay. Anyone else? Well, let's just keep thinking about it, and let's every time I'll put it on the agenda every time to see if there's anybody that we can, if something sticks, and we can go forward for next year. So Jenny is up next, and her microphone is not working.
I have her
So,
update. She typed it up if you want me to read it.
okay, go ahead. Yeah, I see it. So go ahead and read it.
Oh, good. She gave it to everybody. So there you go. I can just read it out loud. It says no new requests for markers. Plans to move forward with cleaning and update later in the spring when weather is better and COVID restrictions are lifted for volunteers, scouts, etc. So.
Okay, awesome. And so Jenny, do you have a complete list of all the markers that I've had a person who was really interested in our markers. They saw one, and so he just wanted to know if we had a list of markers. So, do you have a list that's updated and complete? And I don't know if that's something we want to put on our website or not. What do you all think?
Sherry, I created a total list of markers from all our information, and I gave it to everybody.
Okay. So I think Jenny was going to work from that list, correct? Okay. All right. And so there are no new ones, I guess. Okay. And then I think they were good. If memory is correct, that her son who's working on his scout project, they were going to see if the markers were there. Is that correct? The ones that they were going to clean them and all right, so
Yeah, she's given a thumbs up that that's what her son was going to do. I don't know about cleaning. Is that right, Jenny? Were they cleaning or just making sure they were there? Maybe just a wipe and a Windex or whatever, water or something.
Am I working right now? I'm trying.
okay, so you were going all right, so you were going to see if they needed to be replaced, if they needed some work done on them. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Property updates. I think Deanna sent one, and do you have any questions about it? Do you have anything else, Deanna?
I know we're getting into a long meeting here, so I was just gonna tell you guys one thing quickly, because I'm sure you're all wondering how COVID has impacted the houses and the rentals. So that was what I was gonna speak about today that wasn't included in the earlier report. So you're looking at what is a monthly report that each department in the city submits to city commissioners each month. And for the month of January, this is what we submitted for our historic sites. Abby and I worked together on a presenting a video tour of Ravenswood. So please check that out. It's on the website. It's on YouTube, and it's basically her giving a tour, a very condensed version of the property for those people who are too afraid to come out right because of COVID and things like that. So we did finish that. We've updated some policies to improve some new pricing options. We had 21 new bookings at the Cool Springs house in January. And Ravenswood won a Couples Choice Awards. And this is special because it's actually voted on by people who have used the properties and give us positive reviews. So we were very proud to win that again in 2021. Here's the COVID update. Abby tells me that January is considered engagement season in the event industry due to all those people getting engaged between the holidays. Higher numbers of leads and inquiries then are seen between December and January. This year, her tour numbers have revealed that people are just no longer looking at 2021. It is too much of a risky thing, so they are looking as far out as 2022 to plan weddings, since they know it's probably going to be a more promising year. So as you do talk about events and planning big functions and things like that, you kind of have to look towards the wedding industry as as a guide there, that I don't think people are going to be ready in 2021 for large events. And that's what she's seen with the bookings. They are lower this year. But fiscal year to date, our revenues for both houses are about $212,000. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. I think that's it, unless anybody has anything else. Anything? Thank you
Hey,
all.
I did want to let you know, Sherry, that I did ask the question about future meetings.
Okay.
And the guidance from the city on hosting a meeting virtually, we have to look for the governor's lead on that. And if the governor does suspend virtual meetings, then we will need to meet in person.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for checking on that. Okay. So we'll either be virtual next time or we'll be meeting in person in City Hall. So can you go ahead and book that annex room so that
Yes, we'll
we
do.
can social distance then? Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. And send your reports by March the 12th so I can get them out in a timely manner. So, and if you have anything that you want on the agenda, it has to be, I have to know in 2 weeks, right? Okay. All right.
Yes, please.
So that's it.
Stay warm, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Allison.